Hi, folks. The following video was from the Nevada Patriot meeting recorded on 16 April 2020. The video starts with Senator James Settelmeyer, Nevada State Senator for District 17, addressing a question from one of the people in our meeting.
The way we once did, even though that's always been a common practice. You know, the idea of saving over 50% of individuals from the flu is pretty interesting. You'd asked me specifically about what the Republican Party is doing to stand up. A lot of times in the state of Nevada, we sit there and we try to stand up, as Ms. Dickman knows. We rattle the saber, we talk, and we do things, and the press doesn't say a thing. I've contacted 3 to 4 news outlets on various things going on with the state, and they never really want to take it up. Issues such as violations of the open meeting law for the Board of Examiner meeting. They didn't give enough notification to the general public, 12 hours. Issues such as Nevada legislature meeting with the Interim Finance Committee, and their idea of public comment is that you can send an email in. There is no time in the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting for public comment. That's inexcusable to me. And again, reached out to the press and various individuals, and they said, well, you know, with everything going on, we're just going to give that a pass. I never realized how much of a pass the press gave on a transparency issue, because generally they don't. In that respect, though, we've been putting together a letter to reach out to talk to the governor or put something in front of him. And I'll go ahead and read what we wrote today to him. Dear Governor Sisolak, I write you today to ask you to begin a process of notifying the public and members of the legislature on your plans to reopen the state of Nevada. I understand the need to remain focused on the health and well-being of our residents, but it's also our duty to provide the public with clarity and specifics about the Nevada's plan for health and economic recovery. I urge you to provide the public with answers to the following questions. What is the likelihood of extending the emergency directive stay-home order on school closings, non-essential businesses, gaming, outdoor recreation, and places of worship past April 30th, 2020? What is the deadline to decide if schools will reopen across our state? Is there a priority by industry of non-essential businesses that may be able to reopen with or without limitations? Will future COVID-19 related task forces be bipartisan in representation from stakeholders and subject matter experts from regions all across the state? Millions of Nevadans have diligently followed the emergency directive to stay home and social distance. Let's provide our Nevada families with the critical information they deserve to plan for the weeks and months ahead as we fight to overcome the crisis. Thank you for taking time to review my questions. I look forward to hearing from you, and I believe the people of Nevada will look forward to hearing from you as well. Signed, sincerely, James Settelmeyer. For that, there was a couple of press people who actually thought that was enough to actually ask him questions at a press conference today, at which point he said that was just an attack by me for asking those questions. In the meantime, we've been trying to work through some of the problems in our state. I'll give you an example. When this thing went down, I had businesses reach out to me that wanted to donate, that wanted to help, that wanted to do good. So then we were sitting here trying to work with those businesses to do just that. Even just recently, I had worked with the distilleries in our areas. They wanted to make hand sanitizer, not for profit, but to give, to literally give to the hospitals. Ashley and Colby Frey out in Fallon were reached out to by Banner Healthcare and asked to provide them with hand sanitizer. To do that, they had some problems with the state, so I had to help work through those problems. Bentley Nevada Corporation did the same thing. Now, Bentley's in an interesting spot. He has a much larger facility, and he's asked recently to see if we could change the Nevada revised statutes that says you can't bring in spirits from another state, because he wants to bring in 10,000 gallons of ethanol a week in order to make 10,000 gallons of hand sanitizer in order to give it to all the healthcare related areas around the state that are clamoring for it, from the hospitals to the first responders. And in that respect, it'd be a great thing to be able to do. But unfortunately, we need to try to change the law in order to do that. Today, I had another call from the insurance company saying, you know, we're supposed to actually provide our actuarials by the end of April. There's been a few changes in that time frame. Could we get an extension like all other businesses have, so we can actually give and provide actual actuarials with numbers so we can actually reduce rates for clients or increase them if necessary? And again, So we've been trying to work in a bipartisan way to do that. And there's many other ideas out there that have been incorporated. And unfortunately, the governor's taken 100% credit for it. There were ideas of some of my colleagues. And so we have been commenting. Everything right now is going through the governor, unless you decide to go to outside channels, such as this one. And I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And then, like today, we had a typical 20-minute phone call with his staff. We have that once a week. We're not allowed to ask questions. It's on mute. All questions are supposed to email to our caucus directors, then forwarded to his person, and then they'll determine whether or not they're going to actually answer that question. So today we went outside that, especially in light of what the president of the United States did today, talking about how there are 27 states that, in his opinion, if their governors choose, could open up tomorrow with what's called phase 3, which is somewhat the way we were, but still practicing social distancing protocols to make sure that it doesn't change, go worse, to take them from phase 3 to phase 2. And I put that on my Facebook page, and I tweeted out the phase 1, 2, and 3 from the president. And listen, I'm not trying to be mean to the governor, but we got to start figuring out how we're going to open up the state of Nevada. In his discussion that, well, this isn't a light switch. No, duh. This is not a light switch. If anything, it might be a dimmer switch. We need to slowly open up the state of Nevada by allowing businesses to open up, soft open, obey rules and edicts. Me and my caucus have talked about it. You could open up the restaurants, put in rules though. You have to maintain social distancing of 6 feet from a non-familiar person, meaning that, you and your spouse don't have to be 6 feet apart, clearly, unless you're fighting. In that respect, but your brother-in-law that you're sitting in a cab of a truck with all day, or a coworker, they can sit next to you as well, because again, you've already contaminated one another. But if you could allow people to sit 6 feet apart if they're not familiar, and then you said to a restaurant, you have to take reservations because we don't need people congregating in the lobby and jam-packing it up. And if you said to the food servers, they need to go ahead and wear a mask, or if you want to even go to the realm of a temperature guide, before they go to work or after they get done with work, there's all types of things we could do to start opening up this economy to allow people to keep their businesses, because people are going crazy and we have other issues that are going to get worse, from mental health. I mean, we saw the Depression era, what happens when unemployment rises. And we just went from the best unemployment rate in the world, 3%, to about 25. So this is a big issue. I don't want to monopolize the time and get on my soapbox for too long, though. So what questions do you guys have of me?
As it happens, Lorraine had already raised her hand while you were speaking, so we're going to go ahead and unmute Lorraine. Lorraine, go ahead with your question for the senator.
Okay, yes, Senator Settelmeyer. I heard on a news report just around the 5 o'clock hour that the governor had agreed to open the Nevada economy. Did you hear anything similar?
No, I have not. The only thing I heard is he won't open it until he's good and ready. On his press release that he just did on a YouTube video, meeting, press conference, you want to call it, many people ask, well, what about White Pine County? Why can't, they've already been social distancing since it was even a term. Why can't And his answer was, I was elected to represent all of Nevada, and until I decide that all of Nevada are ready, I'm not going to make that determination. Maybe we can talk about that later, but not now. So
Okay.
As far as opening up the economy, no, I have not seen anything in that way, shape, or form. In conversations with the school districts, the problem that we have, like with the school districts, is we have a situation where over time, due to the desire for what's called class size reduction, they have made the schoolroom smaller so that they can only fit so many people in that schoolroom. Then all of a sudden, if you say maintain 6 feet social distancing, they don't have enough classes, or rather classrooms, in any way, shape, or form. So that's going to be a situation. The schools would like to open up tomorrow. I've talked to them, but only if there are absolutely no rules in place. In other words, go back to the way it was. And right now, that may not be the wisest decision in the realm of social distancing to try to keep this virus in check. Now, certain parts of the state probably could. But let's face it, Clark County, they need a lot more elbow room because they don't have the elbow room. So, I believe that we ought to be doing some solutions that are actually individualized for each county and letting those county commissioners have a little bit of say-so in how this goes down. But again, if the numbers go up, you give us some freedom. You know what? He's treating us like a child. Well, then treat us like a child. Give your child freedom until they prove differently. Then you take some of the freedom away. This whole idea of just treating everybody the same because some people messed up in Vegas or somewhere else is ridiculous to me.
Well, okay, so it sounds like that the people and their representatives are being muzzled. And so in light of that, I mean, I'm not an activist, but I have been watching the news and what's been happening in Michigan, some other states where people are just exercising their free speech rights and still trying to comply with the distancing guidelines. Is that in the cards?
Well, that just happened not this long ago. On Easter, I was part of a caravan that started out in Douglas County and drove to Carson City. A little bit of a civil disobedience in that respect. So in that respect, you're going to see more of that grow, I think, in the state, and I hope it grows. To tell you the truth, I'm shocked how well the government has been able to tell us to behave and to sit down and be told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and how many people have gone along. Now, my world, I'm in agriculture. I'm essential, so they say, and in that respect, those cows still want to be fed every day. So my world hasn't changed much. I'm still putting in the same number of hours and going out and doing things that I've always done. But it's wrong that so many people's business, which is essential to them, have been shut down and not even given the opportunity to practice CDC guidelines and to work in a open, safe environment, and then let individuals take control of their own destiny. Because the number of people that I see that are, I call them nanny staters, that person did this, and there's too many people gathered here. Well, you know what, ma'am, if there's too many people at the Smiths and they're not following social protocols, you just quit giving them money. Go somewhere else. Shop somewhere else. Let your money do your talking, and go find a store that, has more parameters if you want that type of situation. But to sit there and call the police or your legislator because Smiths had too many people in it seems problematic to me.
Well, your comment, oh, okay.
Hang on a second, Lorraine. We got a bunch of people with hands raised, so
No
we'll get back
problem.
to you in a second.
Okay.
All righty, iPhone, you got a question?
Hi, Bruce.
Well, howdy, Barney.
I've got a question for the senator, and it has really been kind of bothering me this past few days. With all this stimulus money coming into the state, this $1.25 billion, I understand that small casinos like Dottie's casino size are not getting any of the stimulus money, and it's already forced one that I know of to
Lakeside Inn.
toss the towel in. What are the options? I know this governor of ours is, and I
Sure.
don't know how to put it.
So let me try to straighten it out a little bit. The state of Nevada is going to receive $1.25 billion from the federal government for Nevada to do as it says, sees fit. However, that's not necessarily true. Within the federal stimulus bill, there is a rule that if a county and or a city is over 300,000, a chunk of that money is automatically allocated to them. So with that being said, the city of Las Vegas and this Clark County are going to automatically get almost $500 to $600 million of that amount of money, which still leaves about $800 million for the state of Nevada. So that's a separate subject. I think what you're asking about is the Paycheck Protection Program that was put forth through the Small Business Administration, which dictated that a business had the opportunity to present the number of employees it had and the amount of wages they were paid, and then the federal government would give them a Small Business Administration loan for that amount of money for about a month or 2 month period, so that way they could actually continue to pay their employees. With the promise that they pay their employees for at least 8 weeks. Therefore, it would not have to even be paid back. That money was just exhausted today, but what you're referring to specifically, unfortunately, came back to a Clinton era rule that stated that if the business had more than 30% revenue from gaming, they were prohibited from participating in any small business association grant or program.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Now, in that respect, it went forward, and our good friend Congressman Amadei did a yeoman's work, and he's been fighting this thing, and he got the Treasury Department to say that they go to 50%, which is still wrong. In that respect, they're locked down on it. I've been reaching out to other sources. Congressman Amadei has, man, we have had some pretty interesting discussions on this, and it wasn't a pleasant one, to say the least. We owed a lot of money to a cuss jar. It's inconceivable. As an example, I have a friend down in Vegas, and he always went to this one little place, you know, have a drink and a burger, whatever. And he said that he pulled in $20,000 a quarter is all he brought in money. However, from the gaming revenue, he brought in $250,000 a year. And because of that, he is absolutely forbidden from participating in the Small Business Association program, which basically means he's going to be out of business.
Yeah.
His landlord's going to still want that rent. We're still trying to work. If you want to reach out and yell, I know that Amadei is 100% supporter, 100% behind it. You might reach out to the rest of the senatorial colleagues to try to get them the same thing. If you have any special phone call numbers straight to Donald Trump, it's a U.S. Treasury decision through the Small Business Administration, and that's where it has to change. Or they could propose changes at the other level. Now, that being said, it's already out of money. There was a discussion to add another $250 billion fund. However, I'm told that Ms. Pelosi decided to go home for a month and take a vacation. So even if we get that through the Senate, we're not going to be able to get that through the House until she sees fit. And I also question, though, any more concepts of extortion. Giving $25 million to the Kennedy Center so they can turn around and give $5,000 to the DNC, or $5 million to the DNC, I find to be problematic. We need to do what's right for the nation and quit being blackmailed into giving money to bad purposes. I don't know.
Well, have you been following the coronavirus bill and looking at all of the amendments and new bills that are being applied to that to rob it?
And that's just it. I agree with you. It's problematic. I've not followed all of them. I don't think anybody can. It's changing so often, and what they're trying to take and steal and divert to their own special interest groups, when it should just be going to help the citizens of America. And that's what it should be doing. So in that respect, no, I have not followed all of them. I do have the fortune to at least be on a update with Congressman Amadei about once a week, sometimes 10 days, on everything that's going on back there and what he's trying to do and how we might be able to assist them. I am the Trump co-chair for the state of Nevada. I have reached out to my contacts, trying to get them to forward the information higher up to make sure he realizes this is a huge issue. And it's just not Nevada. There are 40 states that have gaming. And in that respect, that's the issue. And the fact that we're going to bail out the big casinos, but we're not going to bail out the small ones, no, that's wrong.
Barney, thank you so much for the question. Mike and Christian had a question before Senator Settelmeyer even started talking. So, Mike, Christian, you're on.
Hi. So tonight's agenda was going to be about the debacle in the legislature last time, and what we're talking about is more important. So I hope you'll come back and tell us about all the gamesmanship that went on. So the quick question is Nevada one of the 27 states that meet the, okay. And then my daughter is a manager at Shields, and they are planning to open on May 1st. Mm-hmm. And so is that realistic?
You know, I have no idea. That's going to be up. Unfortunately, the governor has the ability under what's called 414 powers. As soon as he declared an emergency, basically gave him the power to be not only the executive branch, but the legislative branch. Anything he says is basically automatic law, which is not how the rule of law works. It has to be written down first. The fact that somehow we messed up with 414. We should have a long time ago looked at that statute and never given any governor this type of power that he has. It's ridiculous. I mean, even he's doing so many things that are unconstitutional, but as I know, I am the only legislator who brought forth the lawsuit, and I was joined by my Senate Republican colleagues and some businesses to sue him on what he did last session. And people call in and say, well, you ought to sue on the religion. It's like, okay, I've gathered some money. I don't have it all funded. And my lawsuit's about $250,000. So if you want to bring another lawsuit on religion, I'm all for it. I don't have an extra spare $250,000 in any way, shape, or form. I wish someone would. And so that's unfortunately where that is. But he should be sued on numerous things that he is way, way over his skis on, to say the very least. As far as Shields opening up on the 1st, Washoe County, I haven't seen the numbers. I would love if someone at a higher level would put out a map of the phases, phase 1, 2, and 3 that President Trump talked about, and actually told us where every state was. And I'd like to see it even go down further, kind of like those maps of the Electoral College based upon counties. I'd love to see that map done in that respect. I'd love to see where each county is, because again, I think it's improper that basically Clark County, yes, they are an economic engine, but that doesn't mean we still can't coast downhill. In that respect, we can still open up these smaller counties and allow them to succeed and to continue on. And as you have a situation where you have Utah is one of the states he mentioned, and Wyoming, that are going to be able to go completely open as soon as their governors so request, then you're going to have Elko deciding, you know what, for some freedom, I'm going to go out to dinner in Elko. And that's crazy. We ought to be trying to get our economy going back in the state of Nevada and not sending our constituents to other areas. I mean, even Gavin Newsom's been talking about how he gets back up and running. But in that respect, Gavin Newsom actually has been doing a fairly decent job for the state of California and actually letting each county make some of their own decisions. Up in this neck of the woods, I'm here in Douglas County. I'm not sure where you're at, but El Dorado County, right across the state line over here, shut it down. Went to a Mad Dog Cafe over there, and you sell lottery tickets, chips and drinks, stuff of that nature, where they're changing water. Went up there, they're closed. A sign on the door from the sheriffs, they are closed. But then I hear the 7-Eleven, which is in Plash County up above by the state line, they're open. So they're actually letting counties make their own decisions. But unfortunately, those counties are also working in tandem with the United States Forest Service somehow, because they actually shut down all the beaches on the California side of Tahoe. Now, they can't really do that on the Nevada side because they're all privately owned. Majority of them are privately owned. So I'm hoping that he'll get more control. Do I think Shields will be open on the 1st? I kind of doubt it. But I haven't seen the data on Washoe. I know the anecdotal stuff, talking to people that work at Renown. They have not put anybody in their expansion yet at all. So they built a gigantic expansion and no one's in it. So in that respect, I'm told that their bed counts are down, their ICU counts are down. And unfortunately, there's a lag between that data and unfortunately deaths. And so you'll see an increase in deaths even once those things are going down. But I do hope the governor follows the 14-day guidelines on a county by county basis, because I think Washoe County, of course, can come back quicker than Clark. Sorry for the long answer.
That's okay, Senator. Thank you, Christian, for the question. Senator, I wanted to when we see our governor doing some of the things that he's instituted, and we know that it's unconstitutional. And by the way, I was in a convoy Sunday myself protesting. I would love for anybody to explain to me why they targeted Easter Sunday. Makes no sense to me. But we were also involved in that protest up here in Washoe County. My question, sir, is I'm only hearing you. You seem to be the only person out there that's standing up to this guy and saying, whoa, wait a minute, Jack. That's not constitutional what you're doing there. And, this is still America, and we still have a federal constitution and a state constitution. Why are we not hearing more of our elected representatives standing up? Now, I understand politics, it's go along to get along. And well, my concern is if you have to go hat in hand to this guy and say, if it pleases the emperor, could we please? Yeah, he's not going to do anything for us anyway. So why not be in his face every opportunity you get?
And it's a delicate balance in that respect. And so, again, we came out with a letter, and we've been sitting here asking questions offline, trying to get things done, getting frustrated to the point, as you indicated, listen, if you're not going to work with us, why are we being nice to you? And so you're very accurate in that respect. There are some colleagues of mine down south that have been doing the same thing. I know that Chris Edwards down there in Vegas has been rattling the saber. The trick to me is rattling the sabers. I've been at this for 16 years. And the trick is to know when to rattle the saber and how. And sometimes Mr. Edwards went off and got very mad that he says, well, the governor, he canceled our meeting. He rescheduled it. That's a little different. But it wasn't really with him. It was just with his staff. So, because we haven't talked to him in a long, long time. In that respect, look into Mayor Oscar Goodman's wife, Carolyn Goodwin. She's the new mayor of Las Vegas, and she is on the attack. Victoria Seaman and Michelle Fiore have also stood up against the governor. So we're seeing some resistance from Clark County and from individuals that are more aligned traditionally with the governor are getting mad and they're getting angry. And I think you're going to see more resistance. People are tired. They're willing to keep people safe for a while, but I think that point is ending. So in that respect, I think you're going to see more people say stuff. I was working on a letter with Assemblywoman Dr. Titus in that respect. However, it came to a point that some of the things I was putting in the letter I found out were inaccurate. So I had to retask my letter because anecdotally from my police friends, they were indicating that crime was up. Okay, that makes logical sense. Well, then in talking to the sheriff, he says, it's actually not. Domestic violence is down. However, we saw a gigantic uptick in this last week in domestic disturbances, which usually then another week, the disturbance will go to battery. So it will be going up, James, I have no doubt. Fascinating, DUIs are only slightly down in my area. Usually 90 about this time a year. We had 86 this last month. So it's kind of interesting. It used to be people got drunk in the bars. Well, they're not doing that and driving home. So clearly they're getting drunk at home and then going driving, which is not a good thing. But so in other words, I had a letter that was much more terse, would have got me a lot more trouble. I mean, you already basically made him cry today, so that was pretty bad. But in that respect, that letter was being formed, but unfortunately some of it was unfactual, so I couldn't go forth with that letter. And that letter had more of this is not a switch, it's a dimmer. And we need to figure out how to turn up this economy slowly and still follow and practice social guidelines. I mean, my pastor, I think he said at one time really good when he told us he was closing it down. Listen, the church is not afraid. The church is wise. And we have to do what's wise, but we are not afraid. And that's where I think all of us need to be. We need to do what's wise to protect everybody in the community, but it doesn't mean we have to give everything up.
Well, thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. I see Jill Dickman is in the room too. I know that she's chomping at the bit to ask a question. Go ahead, Jill.
No, I heard her and Tom in the same room. That's why I'm real curious.
We're not in the same room. I don't have a question for you, James, but I sure hear the frustration in your voice. And I think we need to make the point that if people don't get active and get more good Republicans elected, you're going to have this same frustration throughout the next session. And it just scares me because, with such small numbers, we're not going to be able to stop anything.
Well, if the Senate Republicans lose one more, we'll be in super minority status as the Assembly was. And if the Assembly doesn't get back above that super minority status, they have absolutely no voice. Of course, that's predicated on the idea that you have leverage because you can stop things, negotiate things, and get things done.
Right.
I say that's predicated on that because last session they issued a rule and edict that says that they don't have to obey the 2/3 as long as somebody else pays a higher rate, which means they could raise property taxes at the next special session and do whatever they want, almost. No, we absolutely need to have more balance in the state legislature. We need everybody to go out there and try to help out in that respect, maintain that or get back that balance, especially with redistricting coming next session, where we're going to have to figure out the lines for the next 10 years. And so otherwise we're going to be in a no man's land in that respect if they're allowed to draw the maps without any discussion with the other side. So I agree 100%. We have to have balance, and I urge people to turn out and vote. But that, of course, brings up, a whole nother subject.
Right.
Mail-in ballot, the recent action by the Nevada Democratic Party to sue the Secretary of State to try to get her to break Nevada law and allow for ballot harvesting. They don't want signature verification, which I find hilarious, because the same attorney who's arguing now that we shouldn't have signature verification is the same attorney that said we absolutely had to have 100% signature verification when we tried to recall a state senator down in Clark County. Imagine that. He wants more polling locations open. It's like the polls aren't open. It's only to drop off your ballots, theoretically. So
And register. And register.
Yeah, and register to vote that day. Exactly. And that's the crazy aspect of it. So no, I agree with you. We absolutely need more people to be involved all across the gamut. Find candidates you like, find candidates you don't like, work for and against them, make your own decisions and vote accordingly, and encourage all your friends to vote. We have to, we absolutely have to. I sat there and did telephone town halls to my district in the last election, and even one of my own counties that I represent only showed up at 55%. If that county would have showed up at 80%, and all the counties in the state of Nevada would have showed up at 80%, I'd at least have an attorney general that actually knows what the Constitution says, the federal and the state. Instead, I'm left with Aaron Ford, who does what he's told. Wes Duncan would have stood up for freedom of speech. He would have stood up for freedom of religion. He would have stood up for the Nevada Constitution. I have no doubt about that. But that was denied because, sadly, Vegas outvoted us, and the rural counties chose not to show up at levels that they normally did. And that's where we have to make sure everybody participates across the state of Nevada. That's just the reality.
So Bruce, if I may, I actually do have a question now.
Okay.
Well, James, you referenced your lawsuit about the 2/3. What is the status of that?
It is on hiatus because the Supreme Court shut down. That being said, I also find it interesting that the Democrats are suing the Secretary of State in the Second Judicial Court in Carson City, which isn't taking cases really because they're shut down because of the coronavirus. So I'm sitting here laughing how that's going to progress. And if they win, it's going to automatically be appealed to the Supreme Court, who isn't taking cases at this point in time because of the coronavirus or ruling on cases. My particular case with the Senate Republicans is at the state court. We're still just in the argument phase of whether or not that the Democrats can be represented by the Nevada legislature attorneys. And I said, no, it's conflict of interest. It's wrong. Yep. If they want to represent the institution, go ahead. But they shouldn't be representing the Nevada Democrats, since they're definitely not representing the Nevada Republicans. So unfortunately, that case is in hiatus. Of course, when we brought this suit, we all voted no against the tax because it was completely unnecessary, because we had plenty of extra money. We had $400 million in the rainy day fund and an additional $170 million in surplus. Right now, we don't have that money. No. So things have changed economically. If our votes were taken again, I think it might be different because of the situation. But if they violate the Constitution, we'll absolutely sue, as we have. We have no choice. We have to try to stand up in that respect on this issue. And if they do anything else, it's easily dovetailed into this suit. So if during special session they do something to break the Constitution, we can dovetail it right into the case because it's the similar issue of not getting the 2/3. Now, if it's a whole different issue, First Amendment, Second Amendment, that's different. That requires a whole nother lawsuit.
Well, I just want to thank you because I know this was not easy for you. It was a little hardship on you, and you've stood up for us. So thank you.
Appreciate that. I'm unfortunately on the personal hook if this thing goes south and there's no money to pay the dang thing somehow. So we've been out raising money and doing our best. But then, of course, you want to try to give all that money to candidates because you need them to get elected. So it's a delicate balance, to say the least.
Appreciate the question, Jill. Oh, I had to move, Jill.
We all owe James a huge debt of gratitude.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Well, I saw Nancy had her hand up. Nancy, I don't know what you're cooking there. But
Can
I'd
you
sure
unmute
like to hear what your question is.
Thank you. Thanks for unmuting me. It's along the lines of this voter issue. We have these ballots going out, like next week? And so people could essentially vote next week, and there's no time for any more campaigning, certainly nothing in person. Let's get some ideas going. Do we need to do like a civil disobedience voter registration drive?
Well, what occurs now is the ballots will be mailed out on May 8th. I've told all my candidates that I'm trying to help get elected down in Clark County and across the state of Nevada for the Senate Republicans. You better figure the election is no longer June 9th. The election is effectively May 8th, because that's when everybody gets their ballots. And most people are going to fill that out and send it back. So I'm encouraging all my people to make sure to get information, pamphlets, things of that nature to the voters in the mail on the 8th at the same time they get their ballot, so that they can make informed and educated decisions. As with all campaigns, they all bring their own nuance. So to me, it goes down to the aspect of, if you're a good candidate, you're going to find a way to get outside of the societal norms. I do telephone town halls. I've been doing these for 14 years. I usually have you call out 20,000 individuals in your district. I usually have 3,000 to 4,000 people on the phone with me at any one given time. And I answer their questions and issues, and we go through those. Obviously, it's always interesting. This last one I was able to predict. For some reason, I knew that all the questions are going to be about coronavirus. And they were. And in that respect, I did it with Assemblywoman Dr. Titus, who represents the Tri-County area, an infectious disease specialist. So it was good to have the doctor on. Scott Hammond down in Clark County did it with Senator Dr. Hardy. I think it's a really wise idea for any candidate right now trying to reach out and give the public information to think about doing it with a doctor, because that's where people's focus are. Well, was. I'll say was because I think it's changing. For the first couple of weeks, everybody was worried about healthcare. They were worried about medical. They were worried about, do we have enough ventilators? That issue now is going to, when are we going to get our freedoms back? When are we going to be allowed to exist? When are we going to be allowed to get to some sense of normalcy? I mean, let's face it, we're never going back 100% to the way it was. We're all going to, because sadly, the public education system had done such a piss poor job with us, nobody had a clue clearly how to even wash their hands. So in that respect, there are some things that we've gained from this that are, going to change things overall. Like Trump said, with handshakes and things of that nature, things are going to change a little bit going forward. As anytime, though, we have a gigantic hiccup in the economy, people are going to be more conservative. You're not going to be seeing people do impulse buys the way they were. Things are going to change. As far as what can be done, I look at the candidates need to getting off their collective and look for different ways to reach out. Zoom meetings like this, like you guys are doing, are instrumental. And because now you have the ability to go talk to 5 friends and try to get them to understand some of the things that were said here and get that information out. Of course, it's hard to do when you can't get out of the house necessarily, but there are ways, from email to whatever, talk to your friends by Facebook or whatever other social media you care for. I mean, usually Facebook and tweeting are the most common. There are many others. My daughter's a Snapchat fanatic in that respect, or Instagram. So there's so many different venues we need to reach out. And we need to try to get to the people that have a similar voice, that are patriots, that are frustrated and angry about some of the situations going on, because frankly, those are the people I want to make sure get motivated to show up and help change Nevada back to where it should be, which in all reality is not a Republican state and it's not a Democrat state. It's a fiercely independent, libertarian-leaning concept where we are allowed to do what we want on our own property and our own homes. At least that's my viewpoint of what Nevada stands for.
Amen. I also want to bring up, while you're on the phone, thank you for participating on Sunday. That really means a lot. It was exciting to see the turnout. And secondly, I hope that something that will be on everybody's minds about this is how much we will allow doctors to rule over us. How much will we allow the medical industrial complex to rule over us? How much will we allow what some doctor who's an unelected bureaucrat says in some medical modeling, how much will we allow that to rule our thoughts and our decisions and our actions, especially at the state level? Like you said, things aren't going to be different as we go forward, but I hope not so different that we don't recognize ourselves afterwards, that we don't recognize, because there are people in Clark County, for instance, in the police force that are being temperature checked right now to be able to attend work. And I personally think that that's a total invasion of privacy. And, if somehow the left can find a mysterious privacy clause in the 14th Amendment, how does it not apply to that? And also, we also have the 4th Amendment. We have the right to be secure in our persons. And I'm very concerned with all of the chat that's going on across the country about, oh, well, we can open up once we have a vaccine, as though that's the magic cure-all.
Yeah.
That's a very invasive thing. And so far we have top scientists saying coronavirus vaccines have typically been very dangerous, let alone the fact that it's an invasive allopathic Western medicine procedure that is predicated on abuse of aborted babies. Like the live virus vaccines are made from aborted fetal cells. And we have the Nevada, Aaron Ford sending out his letter requesting that Trump release the ban on aborted fetal cell. Like, if we can't bring this to an issue among our libertarians and our pro-life people, like, will we all just be like, okay, it's fine, whatever, inject me with whatever you want so I can go back to work? Like, I don't want us to wait that long to where we're.
Nancy, I'm sorry I had to cut you off there. We don't have all, I understand your frustration. Believe me, I do. But there's other folks that I gotta get their questions answered too. I hope you got your question answered, Nancy.
Well, real quick on her question, there is hydrochloroquine. You've got specials out there talking about quinine with zinc. There are different concepts out there for individuals to do a little bit of home remedies in some respects to try to help out. I agree with you. The worst problem is it's state of Nevada. It's not the doctor telling what's going on. It's the governor making his own decision. So I'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Mark, you had a question?
Sure. You've referenced several times, and I've heard it expressed in other places, that suing on these constitutional issues is very challenging. It's expensive. Would you consider starting a GoFundMe? I think there are a lot of us who are very willing to contribute to.
On my lawsuit, you can go to, the Senate Republican website and things of that nature. My website, donate money, because everything I get is dedicated towards that concept to meet that legal requirement. We have on our Facebook page, we're generating funds the same way. The issue you have on the freedom of religion one, you need somebody with front money. And here's why. In Nevada law, if it is a Nevada constitutional issue, you have to pay your attorney fees. And we're going to have to make a compelling argument to actually try to reverse NRS to allow us to try to get our attorney fees from the state of Nevada, since they've clearly violated it. We're going to make that argument. I don't know if we'll be successful, but we are going to make that argument. If you sue on a federal constitutional issue, such as freedom of religion, you're under what's known as USCA 1983. And if you sue under USCA 1983, you have the right to get your attorney fees back when you win, if you win. However, you have to have some front seed money to do that. My opinion is that's going to be $25,000 to $50,000 in that respect. The one that bothers me the worst is that the ACLU has actually, in California, defended two individuals on a county basis. So two counties have had it reversed. They said, no religious worship. And the ACLU stepped in and said, no, you cannot do that. That's unconstitutional, and flipped it and actually won in a court of law. They came forth on their own accord, defended these individuals, and did it. Same thing happened in Kentucky. The governor says, nope, no religious worship. And the ACLU stepped up, took it to the first, I think it's the first district over there, and said, no, you will not. That is unconstitutional. Now, in the meantime, I know Chris Edwards, Assemblyman Edwards, has reached out to the ACLU. He hasn't quite got a phone call back yet from the Nevada ACLU. So in that respect, yes, absolutely, GoFundMe's pages and things of that nature. we need to get national attention too. We've been doing small dollar donations for quite a while. We've 5 to 10 times increased our small dollar donations for the Senate Republicans. Unfortunately, that basically went from $100 to about $5,000 to $10,000, and we're still looking at a $250,000 lawsuit. And unfortunately, some of the big donors don't want to anger the governor, and that's where you get into it. But luckily, I'll go ahead and do a shameless plug for the Nevada Retail Association, the Truckers Association, Nevada Federation of Independent Businesses, the Franchise Auto Dealers Association, and Keystone Corporation down in Clark County for stepping up and helping out in this respect on this lawsuit. Because it was amazing how many people, they're usually the, I call it the, the blood dripping, red meat eating individuals that, donors that are all mad and want to take on the world. And we came to them with a lawsuit and they were like, absolutely. And then all of a sudden they call us back and say, after discussion and advisement from my attorney, I have decided that at this point in time, I cannot lend my name to the lawsuit. Sorry, James, got to go. Bye. And so kind of frustrating, but also understandable. They're risking a lot in that respect. So I appreciate that. If anybody wants to, please go to the Senate Republican website or Facebook page. And there's definitely an opportunity with a click donate button or my web page to do that. But in the other respect, I think somebody ought to look at opening up or starting a concept, or you know what, everybody on the phone, call the ACLU tomorrow and ask them why they're not suing Governor Sisolak on freedom of religion. Where are they? Why are they absent? Maybe they get enough phone calls, they'll realize, hey, we really need to stand up for the whole Constitution, not just when we choose to. So anyways.
Great question, Mark, and I appreciate that. For those of you that are interested, Senator Settelmeyer's website is jamesfornevada.org. There will be, of course, a summary sheet of this meeting coming out to everybody, and I will make sure that his website is included on there. So
thank you.
We'll have that also. And if there was a question you thought of after tonight's meeting, I'm sure that he'd be happy to address that.
Sure. Feel free to, off the Nevada Legislative website is my email address. That's usually the best way to reach out to me. I'll go ahead and say it, but it's too dang long. My upstairs computer that is the jamesfornevada@charter.net. I don't check as often as I should. However, my legislative one, I do check multiple times a day. As Jill Dickman knows, we get 500 to 600 emails a day. A lot of them just stuff you can, delete. But that email is jsettelmeyer@sen.state.nv.us. We don't make it easy. We make it nice and long. And then you have to actually learn how to spell Settelmeyer right. And well, that's its own dang challenge too. So if you want, send me a text and I will go ahead and send you the correct email address. But that's the other reality is I'm one of those rare people. I did it on the phone call with 20,000 people on it just 2 weeks ago. My phone number is 450-6114.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator. For whatever it's worth, folks, last week's summary that went out, it had the contact information for all your representatives, including Senator Settelmeyer. If you had any question about what district you were in, there was a link on there that you could click on and it would take you right to a map and it would show you what your district is. And then you could refer back to the summary sheet and it would tell you who your representatives are. We want you to be able to contact these folks and let them know, because a lot of times, and I've had a conversation with Jill about this too. A lot of times they don't know what's important to us. And if we don't tell them, how do they know which way to vote on issues? I see Lorraine had her hand up again. Lorraine, you had a question for the senator?
I do. I hope it doesn't present a really long answer challenge for him, but I would like to know how were the casinos made to kneel to the governor in closing when they basically pay all the bills?
So the way I look at it, I think it's the other way around. Because if you look at the chronology of what occurred, is the Wynn and the MGM shut down their operations and closed their casinos and closed their entire properties, and then magically a day or two later, the governor says all casinos have to be off by midnight. So I look at it as the other way. They did it. And the reality is with coronavirus, the economy was shutting itself down. And I'll give you an example. I was down there just 2 days before you had the gigantic convention down in Vegas, which is for the builders. Well, at that convention, I'm sitting here talking to Don Ahern 2 days before it, and all of a sudden he gets a phone call that United Rentals decided to cancel. They're not coming to Con Expo. Well, if they're not at the Construction Expo, they represented 20% of Construction Expo. The Chinese had already pulled out. That was another 2,000 people. United was 5,000 people. Pretty soon, they didn't have enough people for the expo. So magically, they decided to shut down. And then a couple of days later, the governor said all gaming establishments had to close down by midnight. So to me, it was kind of the other way around.
Thanks, Lorraine. Appreciate it. I see Mike's got a question for you, Senator.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
A number of things. First, I see with Sisolak's actions what our founding fathers feared, which is the tyranny of the majority. And that's where our remedy is the court system. And I know that costs money because when you have a state constitution, state law is in conflict with federal constitution, the supremacy clause applies, but it still takes money to press that forward. But I see, as you mentioned, that that's a better way to go because at least if we prevail, we recover our expenses in doing so. So I think that's an avenue worth pursuing if we can raise the front money to seed that. But in the short term, I think we need it. They've been thumbing it in our faces. It's time to thumb it in theirs. And I think it came out on the Nevada Patriot site today that there's a gathering at the state capitol Saturday at 11 a.m. to show up, wear our American flags, and press for our rights, and defy the stay home, stay away, isolate yourselves. To your point, Jill, we need to get involved. And I think that's one of the ways to do it is to show up in mass, and as they did in Michigan yesterday, and say, we're not going to, what was the show? I forget. We're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. Network. And do that. So I think that's another way to get involved and push this forward because so many of the actions, not just in Nevada, but are taking place across the country are in direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment. There's so many things that are being violated and everybody's sitting back and taking it. And
that's what scares me more than anything.
Yeah.
Is that people are being complacent and just taking it. It amazes me. I didn't think we were this good a sheeple myself, but sadly we are. I have a couple friends of mine that were in Vietnam, and they're just besides themselves. Like, I fought and was willing to die for this. I mean, these people. Oh my gosh, it's beyond frustrating. But as a friend told me, sometimes though people sadly take time to boil, and there's some people right now getting boiled, and they're getting angry. And as you watch the governor when he first did it, if you're sitting there and you're watching a speech and you see the little comments here on the side, oh, okay, this is understandable. And about 95% of them, okay, we have to do this. Well, now it's about 60-40 with about 60% of them going, what is your plan? Do you have a plan? You can't even do a video. You can't do a YouTube. You can't do a Facebook Live. You can't do anything. And so they're frustrated. So then he tries to pass the buck, tries to blame the legislature. When it was his desire to cut Dieter, the Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, he cut it. That was his call. And then he tried to say, well, the legislature shouldn't have done that. You're right. We probably shouldn't have done anything you asked for in that respect. But no, it's frustrating.
Well, I'll be on your site and we'll add some money to the coffers.
Well, I look forward to trying to be at 11 o'clock, and maybe I'll just drive around the governor's office and just honk our horns and a little bit of civil disobedience.
Yep. Yeah. Not like he'll be there, but yeah.
Well, he was in there today, not when I delivered the letter to him at 8:30 in the morning, but in that respect, he was there today. He did his press conference in the old assembly chambers. So he was up north today. So that was interesting. Most of the time, as you know, he spends in Vegas.
Well, thank you for the question, Mike. And I wanted y'all to know, if you wanted some more information on the protests that are going to be taking place in Carson and in Las Vegas, you can go to operationnevada.com. But I'd like to poll everybody right now. You know, last week it was kind of a last minute thing for me, but we protested the governor's ban on having parking lot church services. We all met at the parking lot down there on 2nd Street, and we convoyed all the way through town and all the way to the governor's mansion, honking horns, lights flashing, the whole 9 yards. By and large, folks, it was very well received. There was a lot of thumbs up and clapping, and other folks honking their horns at us and stuff. I would say that the majority of the people were very positive about what we were doing. There were a couple detractors. I'm used to people waving at me with only one finger when I'm driving. However, if y'all want to do that again this weekend, I'll be more than happy to make it happen, folks. So let me get an email from you. If you're on board, I'll put together a map and we'll make it happen, Captain. They're doing it in Carson. They're doing it in Vegas. I think we need to be doing it here in Reno. Just my opinion, folks. So I will know by your email responses whether or not we're going to make this a go. All right. Did anybody else have a question for the senator? We're kind of running. Oh, Tom, I see you waving. Go ahead with your question, Tom.
James, listen, I've been kind of listening to this, and a couple questions come to mind here. Talking about saber rattling and getting along with the governor and so on. I want to kind of bring up a little something I saw on Tucker last night. He had the governor of New Jersey on with him, and I don't know if anybody else watched it. Tucker was asking him, the governor, about his decision to disallow church services on Easter and so on. Basically, the governor made a very disturbing comment to Tucker when Tucker asked him, by what authority, did you ever think about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights when you made the decision to basically eliminate church services? And maybe this is kind of a broader response, and I think that it probably is, but his answer very disturbingly was, we never considered the Constitution or the Bill of Rights when we made our decisions. Yeah. I think that's probably what's happening here with Sisolak and what's happening in Nevada as well.
So here's the issue you run into in Nevada is that when the legislature or the governor makes a decision, and this was very disturbing to me, they actually had the audacity, I thought it was audacious, to say this at the Supreme Court when we had the discussion on the issue, when the legislative attorney kept saying, whatever we do is automatically deemed constitutional until it is deemed unconstitutional. And finally, the Supreme Court members had enough. They're tired of that little saying, and they said, just why don't you quit saying that, because we are the final arbitrator of what's constitutional, not you. And so I agree with you. It's very disturbing. Again, you got Aaron Ford there, who should be thrown out of office and have his law degree taken away for even allowing this to occur. He should have known better. He went to law school, for gosh sakes.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. They should have known better. However, I guess my next question is, when you're talking about knowing when to rattle the sabers and when not to, and how to do this and that, I was going to come right out and ask, realistically and honestly, how cooperative is the governor and the Democrat majority likely to be with any Republicans, not only during this time of lockdown and so on, but throughout the next session and so on? Are we as Republicans trying to be a little too nice in playing this game? Or should we simply expect that the Democrats are going to basically lock us out and not pay any attention to us no matter what we do here, and being nice isn't going to get us anywhere? What's your thoughts on the relationship between the Republicans and the Democrats?
It's an issue of a balance at times, because simply put, Right now, even today, I had the ability to reach out to some of his directors and tell them, hey, we need to look at this. You know, we need to do something to these people. And they're like, you're right, we need to get that figured out. Or you contact them and say, you're correct, that law is a problem, an impediment. Here's a guy wanting to donate an additional 9,000 gallons a week of hand sanitizer, which will help save lives. And it's our own stupid state law that's in the way. Of course, they take all these ideas and take full credit for them. But the idea of my job is to do my job, and that is to help society. However, as we go along and we get less and less ability to talk and actually have influence in order to help our citizens, then you'll see us, in my opinion, start to become angry and go, okay, fine, this isn't working. It's time to get more aggressive, to, you know, make him cry, basically, which is, you know, reporter asked me, says, well, what about, you know, the comment from the Senate Majority Leader? That probably made him cry right there because I'm the Minority Leader. But that being said, he sat there and says, well, that was just an uncalled for attack. Because I asked you questions. So he's incredibly thin-skinned. And I think that the concept of the protest are going to make his thin skin boil. As far as, you know, getting along, I understand exactly what you're saying. And to me, I guess it depends the issue. I've been in the super minority. I passed a lot of bills in the super minority. I know how to get things done. And I also know that if it goes to session, really good ideas, I'll run under a Democrat name and get it done and get what's needed done for the citizens in my community and the state of Nevada. And I don't care about the credit. But right now, we're in a strange area. Just so you know, take a wild guess what a week ago Governor Sisolak's approval rating was in the state of Nevada.
I have no idea.
71%.
And today?
Don't know what today is. Week before that, he was at 76. So he's going down. But in that respect, you're trying to sit there going against a guy who has the press that when you call and say, hey, there's an open meeting law violation, you have a violation of transparency, you've got this issue, you got that issue. Well, it's his first time, James, as a governor, and we just need to give him a pass. No, we don't. No other governor got passes. This is wrong. So we're pushing water uphill, which can be done. But as the old saying goes, water will run uphill, but usually only to money. In that respect, we're going to have the resources necessary to take them on. But again, everybody on the call, please reach out to the ACLU. Ask them why they're not helping the Constitution, because that's what their sworn duty is. At least they say so. So I understand your question. And I think every legislature is different. They have a different time when they want to rattle the sword and when they don't, or when they get fed up enough that they go, you know, thermonuclear. Everybody's a little different. I've been doing it for 16 years. This is my general style. At times I should be more aggressive, but sometimes people wisely talk me off of a cliff and make me rewrite my letter in order to be slightly more effective, because like today, my original letter was rather poignant. And after rewriting it a couple hundred times, I got it to a point where it's non-argumentative, in my opinion, in any way, shape, or form. And yet he still got upset, which then has the press sitting here sending me text comments saying, man, is he thin-skinned? So in that respect, everybody's different. I don't know. I wish I could give you a better answer than that, Tom.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, James.
So did you have to cut out the part where you addressed him as a no good, lousy, two-bit son of a snake-bellied swamp critter?
I was just using one word to describe him based upon his attitudes and what way he's treating us all. But, you know, we said to leave those words out. Be a little bit nicer. Even one of the press people said, you had help writing that letter, we think, at the end. Why is that? You're way too nice for what you normally are.
Well, Senator, I've kept you a little bit longer than I intended. I appreciate your patience. Folks, again, the summary sheet that will come out will have contact information for Senator Settelmeyer, and it will also have the Operation Nevada information there. I was looking at some of the chat, and I'm thinking that we're probably going to either do another convoy or we're going to join the Carson group on Saturday. But please email me, let me know what it is you'd like to get involved in, and we'll do our best to organize it for you.
Well, thank you.
Senator, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for letting me participate. It's been a great opportunity. Very much enjoyed the Zoom conference. I'm going to hop off because my phone's gone off a few thousand times. I got to get to some other phone calls. Pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, folks, appreciate y'all joining us tonight. I'd like to let you know that the Constitution class on Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock is still happening. We had a few technical difficulties last night, but those have all been worked out. So if you want to join us, 6 o'clock on Wednesday, and we'll go through the Constitution. A little hard to know if your rights are being stripped from you if you don't know what they are. I think you'll find it informative at the very least. There will not be a Nevada Patriot meeting next week. We'll get this summary sheet out to you, get you the information. And folks, again, thank y'all so much for being here.
Hey, Bruce, I have a question for you.
Sure.
It was really great to have Settelmeyer here. I really appreciate that. Have you reached out to some of the other, like Jill and Heidi and some of the other representatives to join us like that? I found that just really inspiring to have him here.
Well, actually, to answer your question, Mark, I didn't get to make all the phone calls that I wanted to.
Yeah.
I could have had, now for whatever, I could have 6 or 7 of these folks on here easily. But as you can see, we've already been here for an hour and 15 minutes. It's been my experience that for one of these, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but staring at a computer screen for over an hour kind of wears on me a little bit. I like to try to keep these meetings to just an hour or under if it's possible. And I knew with Senator Settelmeyer, there was no way that I was going to get him and somebody else in here and actually get any worthwhile information out to everybody.
No, I think one at a time is really appropriate.
Hang on just a minute. Let me click on here and unmute everybody because I want to hear what everybody thinks about that.
Agree.
You gotta raise your hand though.
Let me see. There we go. Okay, everybody, y'all unmuted.
Take us up.
Tell us again about Saturday, 11 a.m. in Carson. Tell us again about that.
Well, what they're going to be doing is, from what I understand, looking at OperationNevada.com, they're going to get together in vehicles and do the convoy thing like we did last Sunday. But they're also going to be gathering in groups and standing outside the state capitol again with signs and everything. So, I mean, if you want to grab your torch and your pitchfork, we can do that. You know,
No, bring your flag.
How about my shotgun?
AR, your AR.
Posted in the chat all the info that I have about it. I don't know who exactly is organizing this, but you know, if they can do it in Michigan, we can do it here. Of course, the press will spin it as a white supremacist thing, which I saw them doing about Michigan, which is just mind-boggling. But bring your American flags and honk your horns, and you know, yes. I think if we all show up and do it, there's some statements there, but we got to get some press going on it too.
Well, how would you guys like to do this? You want to start here in Reno and convoy down there in a caravan? We can do it that way. That's how we did it last week. Or we can all meet down there in front of the Capitol. However y'all want to do it. Whatever works.
Hey, Bruce.
Certainly works for me.
Hey, Bruce.
Okay. I don't know. Let's I don't know where everybody is. This is Dave. And
You still there, Dave?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just set out we're in South Reno. So we'll go, but let's figure out some place in South Reno to convoy,
Summit.
Yeah,
like at the
empty parking lot at the summit.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. How about the Summit theater thing?
Okay.
Theater. Summit Theater.
Okay.
I like that idea, Dave. Say Summit Theater at what do you think? Maybe 10:30 on
10:30.
morning,
Sounds good. Okay.
and we'll come right down to the Capitol from there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
You had a
Okay.
question?
Saturday, 10:30 at the movie
Summit
theater.
Mall, in front of the theater there at Summit Mall.
Okay. All
Probably
right.
ought to be more like 10 because we're going to need to get organized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make some signs. Make some signs.
About that, Mike.
I'm gonna wear my shirt and my hat. That's what I'm gonna do.
Some size.
Yeah, I think we should make it 10 o'clock. Nancy?
Do y'all, are you planning on, are we thinking we want to do cars and just stay in our cars, or are we going to be bold and get out on the governor's mansion, place, or are we on the Capitol? Like, are you thinking to be out in person holding a signs? Are you thinking cars? Just putting that out there.
I understand, Nancy, based on what I saw on Operation Nevada, we can convoy down there in our vehicles and we can cruise around. If anybody wants to get out of their vehicle, they're certainly, that's entirely up to you. But I would strongly encourage everybody to have signage on their vehicles.
Absolutely.
Bring your American flags, bring your Nevada flags. Make sure you got some type of signage on your vehicle. Let folks know what it is you're involved in here. And of course, flashers on, headlights on.
Bring that thing that you have to the tractor, put it on top of the floor.
So 10 o'clock Saturday, Summit Mall, front of the theater.
11 o'clock in Carson.
I see Barney's got his. Barney, go ahead. You're
Well,
muted, Barney.
Okay. My question was, what time is things going to start getting going in Carson City?
Where you been?
11 o'clock. That's why if we meet up at 10 o'clock, that gives us time to go down there and possibly join up on the tail end of the Carson City folks.
Oh, okay. Well, since I'm out in Dayton, I'm going to be coming into Carson, so that's why I asked.
Okay.
So, what time was that again, Bruce? I didn't get through your accent.
What accent? Everybody, crying out loud, folks. 10 o'clock, Barney. That's
Okay.
100 hours for you military folks.
Right, but
Oh, now you got it just perfect.
It's 11 a.m. in Carson City.
Yeah.
And it says south of Reds 395 in the mall parking lot. That's the starting point for all Nevada.
Red Santa.
Okay.
All right, folks. Sounds like we got a plan. I hope to see y'all there. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. You're not muted, man. Talk to us.
Oh, I just wanted to tell everybody thank you. That was my first time joining in on the meetings and the fun, and I just wanted to say thanks. And you'll be seeing more of me, and maybe I'll speak up a little bit more in the future.
Glad you came.
Me too.
I
You're
hope
not barbecuing.
Bruce, real quick, Bruce.
And what was for dinner?
Hey, Bruce.
Real quick.
I just want to tell you thank you for that salmon that you got us. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Is that you, Lorraine? I can't see you.
Yeah. Sorry, I was eating dinner, so I covered my video. Real quick, is there any chance that you would have the information like tomorrow that I could print in a flyer form and distribute it to my neighbors?
Oh, wow. Very hard. I will try very, very hard.
That would be hard?
I will try very, very hard to get that.
Oh, well, if you need any help, just give me the information. I could do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Website.
Okay, thanks.
Like maybe by 2 or 3 o'clock.
Okay, yeah.
I'm happy to make a flyer and email it to Bruce tonight. I can do it in the next 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
Great. Woohoo.
I mean, it's like a little bit of magic over here, but I got all the stuff and I got the words right here. I'll just copy paste.
Okay,
Bingo.
cool.
Well, there you go, folks. Nancy, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Nancy.
you.
We can take a flag.
All right, folks. I think we got a plan. Nancy, thank you.
all.
I will see y'all next time. We'll put the information out a week ahead when we're going to have the next Nevada Patriot meeting.
All right, thanks,
Well, it's
Bruce.
Wednesday for the Constitution class. If you want to maybe learn a little bit more about our system of government and how it's supposed to work.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bruce.
Hey, guys. Thank
Have a great
you.
evening, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great
Okay,
evening.
Bruce and Reva, you're the
Thanks,
best.
Bruce, Reva. Appreciate it.